Am I the antagonist for calling my girlfriend an inconsiderate wanker for waking me up on my day off? Every day I get up at 5 a.m. for work. I do everything I can to be as quiet as physically possible to not wake my partner. Of course, it's not going to be perfect every time, but I'd say around 90% of the time she doesn't wake up at all while I'm showering and getting ready, etc. She, on the other hand, can be flexible as to when she gets up and starts work. She works from home, and in her role she doesn't have any direct superior to monitor her, or at least one that cares. Now, this woman is atrocious with punctuality and time management. She's always late to everything. She wakes up late almost every day, but as she's able to just log onto her laptop straight out of bed, she can just get away with it. The fact I have to get up early for work every day means I really value a lie in on my days off. It's something I've always appreciated and taken pleasure in, sleeping until 9 or 10 a.m. when possible. We have no kids or any other responsibilities that would make this an impossible or otherwise irresponsible pleasure. I usually have weekends off the same as her, but due to the shift pattern I'm on I sometimes have weekdays off, this week being Wednesday and Thursday. Now this morning, as per usual, she woke up late for work. Actually, she woke up, made a cup of tea, sat on TikTok for a bit, and then had to rush around because she was late for work. This is regular behavior for her. She's now frantically rushing around trying to get ready. Quite literally running around the house, in and out of rooms, up and down the stairs, banging doors, and stomping around everywhere. Making it worse, she was also wearing flip-flops, so I could hear them loudly slapping against her feet with every step. When she finally stopped darting around like a cat on heat, she came into the bedroom to use her makeup and toiletries. Every single can, bottle, brush, pencil, whatever, gets slammed on the table, some drop on the floor, hairspray and perfume being sprayed everywhere. This is the same woman who asks me to spray my deodorant outside the room because it's loud and makes the room toxic. She then says she needs to use the hairdryer. I responded, "Oh, because you've been so quiet up until now." She just replied, "I don't care," and used the hairdryer twice. This is what really pissed me off, honestly. She clearly could just not at all give a shit in the slightest is what really gets under my skin and has annoyed the fuck out of me. To me, it's just inconsiderate and shows the ugly side of her character and somewhat shitty attitude. So I angrily called her an inconsiderate wanker. She almost seemed a little confused and said that it was really uncalled for and that I'm overreacting. I wouldn't mind as much if this was a one-off or rare occurrence, but it isn't. While typing this, I do feel like I might have overreacted a bit, but it's really aggravated me and made me wake up in a horrible mood. Am I the antagonist for reacting poorly to this? Do I genuinely owe her an apology? NTA. Sit her down and offer her two options. You either both do your best to let each other sleep when one has to get up early and the other doesn't. Or neither if you do it, and you'll stop tiptoeing around her at 5 a.m. too. See what she picks. And if she picks the latter, you'll at least get an extra 30 mail-ins every day because you can now get out of bed and get ready much faster too, because you no longer need to worry about waking her. NTA. Show her how an inconsiderate wanker behaves at 5 a.m. NTA. I had a roommate who did this in the morning, but lost her shit if I needed a light at night for 60 seconds. Some people think they are the main character in everyone's life. I would make sure she knows how much you appreciate your sleep-ins on your days off. If she does know how much it means to you and chooses to not care, then I think you should stop being so careful on your early mornings and show her what it is like. Your sleep-ins are important to you, so make sure she understands this. Am I the antagonist for criticizing my mother-in-law's life choices and telling my wife her mom can't live with us long-term? My wife, 36 female, and I, 37 male, have been married for 10 years and have 2 kids, 7 and 4. My mother-in-law, 62 female, has been separated from her husband, wife's stepdad, for about 2 years. As far as I know, there have been no moves towards divorce, she's just not living with him anymore. She doesn't have a place of her own, so she kind of just moves from one family member to another every few weeks or months. She stayed with us a handful of times, her longest stay being almost 2 months. My wife and kids enjoy having mother-in-law there because she spoils our kids and they enjoy grandma time. Me, however, I hate it. I don't like people in my space. It's the same way with my own family when they visit. A long weekend is fine. But anything longer than a week and I want you out of my house ASAP, I don't care who you are. So mother-in-law's extended stays wear me extremely thin. I've talked with my wife about this because she notices changes in my behavior when mother-in-law is visiting. I have less patience, my stress level increases, I withdraw from family time and instead find ways to spend time alone much more often. I've explained how much I dislike having mother-in-law stay with us, but my wife makes excuses that mother-in-law is going through a hard time with her marriage and that she feels like a burden on family, so that's why she moves from place to place. The other day my wife mentioned that mother-in-law asked about coming to stay with us again soon. I had a less than enthusiastic response. I asked how long mother-in-law intends to stay and my wife didn't have an answer. I asked how long her family is going to tolerate mother-in-law being a nomad and being a burden on everyone else, and my wife got pissed. She told me her mom is not a burden and that she is just going through a hard time. I told her that she's been separated from SD for 2 years and has spent that entire time moving from place to place, not working, not making any effort towards building a life for herself, and constantly expecting other people to put up with it. I told her I'm tired of it and I don't want her to stay with us because I'm worried that one of these times mother-in-law won't leave and will be the one stuck supporting her. My wife got mad at me and told me it's not my place to criticize mother-in-law's life because I've never walked a mile in her shoes. She told me that no one else in her family has a problem with what mother-in-law is doing and that I'm the only one in our house who has a problem with it. I told her that if no one else in her family has a problem with it, then mother-in-law can stay with someone else for as long as she wants, but I don't want her here. My wife said she and our kids like having mother-in-law at our house and that since I am the only one who has a problem with it, I am going to have to learn to live with it because it's short-term and there has never been any discussion about mother-in-law living with us permanently. She told me I'm being a jerk to be so harsh on mother-in-law and that I need to be more understanding in case I ever need help from family like mother-in-law currently does. NTA. Your wife is prioritizing your mother-in-law over you in your home. Does your mother-in-law help to pay the bills at the places she is staying? Does she help pay for extra food/water/electricity? If no, she's using you guys hidden behind the word family. If this was a much more dire situation where she was kicked out with no time to search for a job, I would say you are the asshole, but your mother-in-law has been out of her home for 2 years, plenty of time to search for a job, and a new place to live. NTA. It's awful when a partner just expects their so to deal with the consequences of a decision they made unilaterally. This is not what family does. Is there a way to stay someplace for a couple of weeks/month while your mother-in-law visits? It may put things into perspective for your wife so she starts taking into consideration your well-being, needs, and wants in this relationship. This is the kind of prolonged conflict that is hard to resolve and warrants therapy. NTA for expressing your feelings in an adult and reasonable manner, and for needing boundaries. At a minimum, start out by seeing if you can get your wife to compromise to no more than a week for any visit and at least 3 months between visits. Meanwhile, do you have a garage where you can build a small apartment? This is the kind of prolonged conflict that is hard to resolve and warrants therapy. NTA for expressing your feelings in an adult and reasonable manner, and for needing boundaries. At a minimum, start out by seeing if you can get your wife to compromise to no more than a week for any visit and at least 3 months between visits. Am I the antagonist for getting engaged at my sister's wedding? My partner and I /29 male and 32 male / have been together for a decade now. We've discussed marriage before, but it's always one of those we'll get to it when we get to it things. We're in love, we've lived together for years, we've both got steady incomes. Basically, all we haven't done is gotten the special piece of paper and had a party with family. My sister's wedding was this past weekend, and it brought up a lot of unexpected feelings. My partner and I have never been particularly bothered with the idea of a big wedding, and we're still planning on keeping things small, but there was something special about that night. We've been to plenty of lovely weddings together before, but something felt different. In a private moment just between us two, I asked him to marry me, and he accepted. There was no big show, no getting down on one knee, just an intimate moment between the two of us during the reception. We didn't tell anyone that night, or even for a few days. We had a little family visit yesterday, though, to see my sister and her new husband before they left for their honeymoon. My partner and I said how beautiful her wedding was and how moved we were, and told the story of that special moment that she helped facilitate, even if it wasn't intended. Instead of happiness, we were met with anger. She argued that it was disrespectful and undermined her event, that we were trying to steal her thunder. I wasn't even planning on sharing this story with anyone but mine and my husband's immediate families and friends. I also thought it was harmless because we didn't call attention to ourselves. Am I the antagonist? Edit. Thank you for all the engagement well wishes. I'm currently curled up with my fiancé. Reading your responses. Smiley face. It may be unpopular, but I'm going to say not the a-hole. Don't propose at someone else's wedding is a pretty common rule, but in this case I feel like sister is upholding for the sake of the rule, rather than because it makes sense. It's more about don't hijack someone else's event. If it was a quiet moment with just you two, no one else noticed, you didn't cause a scene, no one jumped on a table and announced it to everyone present, I think you're okay. As long as in the future you don't make a big deal of it or anything, and don't advertise that you got engaged at your sister's wedding. And definitely don't bring up your engagement anytime someone talks about sister's wedding. NTA the rule about not getting engaged at a wedding is don't steal the spotlight while someone else is getting married or celebrating at the reception. It never meant two people can't decide, privately, to get engaged at a wedding and tell people later. I'd be so touched if my wedding inspired this for someone else. Congratulations, and I'm sorry your sister doesn't see it the same way. NTA I was ready for you to be TA, but this was a private moment that didn't draw any attention away from your sister. It sounds like your sharing this information with her was well-intentioned, to compliment her on her beautiful wedding. I'm guessing there is something else that is upsetting her. If nobody at the wedding noticed, then it's as if it didn't happen there. Tree falls in a forest, and all that. So the bride freaking out as much as she did was unwarranted. You didn't actually ruin the wedding, you just annoyed them after it was over. Am I the antagonist for letting my sister wear what she wants? I'm 22 female, my little sister Maze, 10 female, legal guardian. She started living with me when I was 18, and she was 6, but I've honestly been raising her since she was a baby. Our mom didn't do much and her dad isn't around. I'm a firm believer in letting kids express themselves, so when May started gravitating towards traditionally masculine things, I didn't force her to do girl stuff, I just let her do what made her happy. She cut her hair and stopped wearing dresses and things like that. We even redecorated her room as dinosaur-themed. They're her favorite thing. She's only 10, and I think it would be dumb to deprive her of joy just because other people think that boys should behave one way and girls should behave another. I've always encouraged her to just be her and do what makes her happy. Recently, May's grandmother and 60 female got into contact with me and asked to see her. She's never met May, and her son, May's dad, hasn't met her either. He doesn't even have rights to her. I did agree to let and meet her under the conditions that May agreed to the meeting and that May's dad wouldn't be present/know about it. She said okay, so we made plans to meet at a restaurant. May picked out a button-up shirt with dinosaurs on it and some shorts to wear. She just looked so happy with her choices that I didn't consider making her change or anything. When we arrived, and was there, but she immediately looked bothered upon seeing May. She asked where her granddaughter was, and when I told her that my sister was right here, she immediately went off. She started saying that I never deserved guardianship of May, that I'm turning her grandchild into someone she's not, forcing her to be a boy, etc. We started getting looks from other people, and May was clearly upset by what was happening, so I took her and left the restaurant. I later got another message from Ann saying she plans on taking custody of May because, according to her, I'm ruining her. I told my best friend about it, and she said that I should have made May dress differently before taking her to dinner because Ann was obviously from a different time and I should have been mindful of that. But I feel like if I had done that, then I'd be going back on how often I've told my sister that who she is and what she likes to wear/do is nothing to be ashamed of. I don't know what to do. I don't think I should have made May change her outfit just to go meet a woman she doesn't even know. And I don't even think that letting May be herself is wrong either. But if it could have helped avoid any issues with Ann, maybe I should have asked May to tone it down a little. Am I an asshole because I didn't do that? 100% not the a-hole. And don't be afraid of her stupid threats, she's not got a leg to stand on. Neither does she seem to have anything to offer your sister. I think you did great. And bonus, and revealed her truth earlier rather than later so you can wave bye-bye. NTA. You're letting May be May and there is nothing wrong or bad about that. If Grandma was so worried, where was she 4 years ago when her 6-year-old granddaughter needed a guardian? NTA, you're doing the right thing by showing your sister that she doesn't need pretend to be someone she's not just to please others, especially not people who have never cared about her before. It's not your or May's problem that Ann is apparently unable to move past the gender roles she was raised with. You might want to get legal advice though in case Ann actually tries to get custody. Be very careful with any and all communication with Ann going forward. Save any and all texts, emails, or letters, and let any calls go to voicemail. You are an amazing guardian who is letting May figure out who she is without prejudices, and as long as she has clean clothes that fit her, then I don't see where you could be the one in the wrong. Am I the antagonist for making my mom cry and hurting her marriage? BG, my mom has me, 16 female, and my brothers Nico, 17M, and Shay, 18M, with our dad. He died on my 5th birthday really suddenly. Mom was young and had the 3 of us, and she ended up meeting our stepdad less than a year later. I think it was about 2 years after my dad died that she introduced him to us as her boyfriend, and they married fast after that. At the time, Mom and my stepdad wanted him to adopt us and to change our last names to his, so we could be a legal family and share a family name. We had said no, but they went through the process for the adoption, and when it came time for court, the judge took us aside, and we spoke to him, and expressed that we did not want to be adopted or to have our last name changed. It's not something I remember the best because at the time I was really upset, but the end result was the judge turned down the adoption request and the change of name request. My grandma said that the judge told my mom and stepdad that he didn't want to leave us feeling even more robbed of our dad by taking away his name and his ties to us legally. After all that, my stepdad tried so hard to get us to start calling him Dad. He always called us his kids, his daughters/sons, etc. But he made for a real emphasis on how much he wanted to be our dad and how he wanted to feel us accept him in that kind way. Mom would sit and tell us how we were blessed to have 2 dads. One in heaven who looked down on us and one who was with us on earth and could raise us and be the parent we needed. She said it would be such a positive thing to embrace him as our dad. My brothers and I never did call him Dad. Mom had more kids with our stepdad, and they call him Dad, but it was always a problem that we didn't. My oldest brother graduated last year, and he moved out soon after. He graduated early, and there were some things that went down which resulted in Mom and stepdad bringing Nico and me to therapy with them. 4 weeks ago during therapy, my mom and stepdad brought up how tired he is of feeling like he raised us for nothing, because we never show him the love he believes he deserves, and we don't show him the respect he wants by denying him the title of Dad. They said he is very close to leaving. So Mom asked if either of us would consider trying to be more open to the idea, would be at least refer to him as Dad to others even if we don't call him Dad to his face. I said I would never be okay with that. My brother too. Mom cried and my stepdad, well, I think that was a breaking point for him. It feels like their marriage is all but over, and deep down I know both of them blame me and my brothers. I hate seeing my mom so upset. My stepdad can't hide the fact he's angry with us over it. Am I the antagonist? NTA. They tried to force the adoption down your throats when none of you wanted it. And now he says this is a deal breaker for the marriage? If that's true, he never really wanted a marriage, he just wanted to be a dad. NTA, you shouldn't raise kids for gratitude or reward. You should do it because it's the right thing to do. Your stepfather should have realized a long time ago that you had boundaries when it came to parenting. He was not entitled to be your replacement father. He was disrespecting your wishes and your father. That sort of disrespect was never going to earn him respect. He should have wised up a long time ago and realized that his vision of a perfect family where he is beloved replacement dad was never going to come true. He should have stepped back, actually considered what you wanted, and learned to respect your boundaries and wants. The fact that he didn't do that, and instead continued to try to push this relationship, is his problem. He didn't have to do that, and he shouldn't have done that. Now he's messed it all up. And the fact that he's considering leaving because you didn't respond well to his constant pushing proves any love he had for you was conditional anyway. That is not how a parent should act. NTA. Your mom and stepdad have serious issues in their marriage, and their emotional manipulation to receive gratification by your submission is just wrong and borderline abusive. You can't force your stepkids to treat you like a parent. You have to earn the right to be a parent, and your stepdad and mom tried to force it to happen. I understand why you never felt comfortable calling him Dad after they tried forcing you to change your name. That was extremely disrespectful, and you are lucky that the judge had your back. You aren't the fault for the marriage falling apart. Your stepdad and mom should just accept that he is not a father to you. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to take a DNA test? My 32 female dad passed away when I was a wee baby. He was in a car accident with his pregnant female subordinate who was also his longtime mistress. She did survive the crash but lost the baby and ended up in an almost vegetative state. She's still alive. My parents had me after 8 years of marriage after dealing with years of infertility. My dad was rich. He came from old money and while married to my mother created his own fortune. My mom came from humble beginnings. They had an arranged marriage. While they were married, my dad was in charge of the finances, and when he died, everything went to my mom. She married my dad's younger brother a few years later and had my siblings. They are still happily married. We had a very happy childhood, and my grandparents, Dad's parents who have since passed, were very involved. I had an extremely privileged upbringing. Now here's where I might be the asshole. A girl claiming to be my half-sister, my dad's mistress daughter, has contacted me saying that her mom is on her last legs and that she's trying to get some money for the hospital bills. She is 2 years older than me and claims that she's my dad's daughter and is entitled to my family's money. I have refused to take a DNA test. She has now threatened to take me to court. I refuse to meet her or discuss this issue. Her family is now harassing me, and they tell me that I'm trying to steal her money and that she's my dad's firstborn child. When I told my mom about this, she told me to ignore her and go on with my life. Am I the antagonist? NTA, but I disagree with your mom. Contact a lawyer rather than ignore it. If the family is harassing you, this is more than a casual scam. NTA. The money went to his wife. NTA. Since everything went to your father's next of kin, aka your mother, she's not entitled to anything. However, I would get a lawyer ASAP to see what your options are and to head off any further legal problems. I'm sorry to her for her mother putting her in this situation. She didn't ask to be possibly born out of an affair, but you have no responsibility to her. To be fair, it is just as likely your father is not her father at all, and that's just what her mother and grandparents told her. If what that girl is saying is true, then she can request a DNA test through the court and try to get whatever inheritance she would have gotten through the courts. Harassing you like that is not the way to go.